fell. Welcome back to the Making Noise Show, where we shed a light into the darkness. We've spent weeks examining the cycles of pain we inherit, but today we turn our gaze toward the most serious reckoning of all, the divine separation described by Christ himself. We're diving deep into Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 through 46. It's not just a warning. Yes, a detailed instruction manual for how we are meant to live and interact with the world, ensuring the curses of apathy and selfishness end with us. We're calling this episode The Sheep and the Goats, a Divine Separation. 2. This passage paints a picture of ultimate accountability. Thried, where the Son of Man separates humanity as a shepherd divides his flock. It's a moment of profound, eternal consequence. Let's ground ourselves in the text. Jesus begins with terrifying grandeur. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations. The imagery is stark. He places the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. The distinction is absolute. And what strikes me every time is the surprise on the faces of both groups. Neither the sheep nor the goats expected their actions or inactions to be the basis of judgment. That surprise reveals a dangerous disconnect many of us live with. We operate daily thinking our faith is a matter of belief, rituals, or identity. But Jesus bypasses all that. He cuts right to the practical reality of our hearts. How did you treat the marginalized? To the sheep, he says, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." The reason, for I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. But they didn't recognize him. They ask, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty?" The sheep acted out of ingrained, habitual compassion. They broke the curse of self-focus without even realizing they were ministering to the king. Generational curses we often fight stem from learned indifference, that survival instinct that says, "Look out for number one." The sheep are the proof that breaking that cycle is possible through simple, consistent righteousness. Now we must turn our serious attention to the goats. 2. Those on the left, Jesus says, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." That is perhaps the most sobering condemnation in all Scripture. But the key is the reason for their condemnation. It wasn't blasphemy. It wasn't malice. It was profound omission. It was inaction. The same criteria, but applied in reverse. I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. The goats were condemned for what they failed to do. The goats suffer from spiritual blindness. They too ask, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty and not minister to you?" They had outsourced their responsibility. They believed their faith was separate from their behavior toward the needy. And that is the root of so many generational failures, isn't it? The curse of apathy. We inherit the cycle of seeing suffering and rationalizing our way out of addressing it. We are taught to manage our own comfort rather than engage in sacrificial ministry. The goats represent those who saw the suffering of their neighbor and decided it wasn't their problem. They didn't throw punches. They simply crossed the road. And Jesus equates that negligence directly with neglecting him. In that moment of separation, the lack of mercy becomes the evidence of the heart's true allegiance. You cannot claim to love God, whom you have not seen. If you fail to love your brother, whom you see every day. The goats had the opportunity to break their own spiritual lineage of indifference, but they chose comfort over Christ. And the Lord's response seals their fate. "Truly, I say to you, as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me." So, How do we ensure we are living lives that reflect the spontaneous, sincere compassion of the sheep? We have to fight the inherited tendency towards spiritual short-sightedness. It starts with acknowledging that the least of these are not just abstract concepts in distant lands. The hungry is the colleague struggling silently. The stranger is the new neighbor or the person whose culture we don't understand. The naked is the child lacking mentorship or dignity. Breaking the curse of generational selfishness means replacing the question, "What do I need?" with the question, "Who around me needs to be seen?" The sheep weren't performing for judgment. They were living a life of active, applied love. This is not about grandiose acts of charity that bankrupt you. This is about daily discipleship. It's about sharing that extra meal, offering intentional encouragement, or sitting with someone in their distress. It's consistent, small acts of righteousness. And that consistency is what builds a new bloodline, a legacy defined by mercy and active engagement. If our parents failed to see the suffering in their community, we must intentionally open our eyes and respond. That breaks the cycle. We are encouraged today, not by the threat of fire, but by the promise of the kingdom. The invitation is clear. The only way to inherit a blessing for ourselves and for our descendants is to actively become the hands and feet of Christ to the world around us. Let us choose to be the sheep not out of a desire to earn heaven, but out of a heartfelt recognition that in serving humanity, we are serving the divine. Let the cycle of apathy end now, with us. Thank you for joining us today on the Making Noise Show. Laugh, learn, grow. Until next time, walk in active compassion. God bless.